Let's go straight to the core of your deepest fears. You are not truly loved. You are merely tolerated. Does that hurt to hear? It should. Because this world, your world, has conditioned you to chase approval like your life depends on it. They told you to be nice, to smile, to be agreeable. But what they never warned you about is this. Approval is the most deceptive prison you'll ever enter. Every time you try to please others, you open yourself up to danger. Every overly kind gesture, every desperate attempt to win affection becomes a map, and those around you start to trace it, looking for your weakest point. You may not say it out loud, but deep down, you know the truth. Love is fragile. It wavers. It's emotional, fleeting, conditional. The affection you spent years building can vanish in a second. One misunderstood word, one mistake, and suddenly you're the enemy. But fear is something else entirely. Fear doesn't vanish. Fear doesn't care about feelings. Fear stays etched in the minds of those who feel it, like a warning, a permanent scar. And don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about fear that humiliates, that triggers hate. That kind of fear turns against you. No, I'm talking about something far more strategic. Fear that earns respect. Fear that silently tells others, if you cross this line, you will regret it. Here's the uncomfortable truth no one wants to say out loud. In the real game of power, it is safer to be feared than loved. History has proven it over and over again. Leaders who sought to be adored were swallowed by the very people they tried to please. Kindness, when excessive, gets mistaken for weakness, and weakness is an open invitation for betrayal. You've been lied to. They told you that setting boundaries is cruel, that being firm is toxic. But ask yourself, who benefits from that idea? The ones who want to exploit your softness. The ones waiting quietly for your guard to drop. Because whether you like it or not, people act in their own interest. Loyalty lasts only as long as it's convenient. Respect doesn't survive on hope. It survives on consequence. And power, real power, stands on two legs, law and force. The law establishes the rules, but without force, rules are nothing more than polite suggestions. On the other hand, force without law breeds chaos. The true strategist knows how to balance both. They command without brutality, but they do not hesitate when lines are crossed. You may call this harsh. You may call it cynical. But open your eyes. Look at the world. How many gentle souls have been crushed by the very people they lifted up? How many times has kindness been mistaken for permission to betray? The truth is painful but clear. Being loved is not enough. Only measured fear, built on unshakable respect, keeps you standing when the winds of betrayal blow. You have to choose. Being loved by everyone or doing what's truly necessary, even when they hate you for it. Because the cold, enduring truth is this. Real power doesn't come from love. It comes from respect. And yes, sometimes from fear. Let's be clear, not fear that breeds hatred. That's reckless. That leads to enemies you can't reconcile with. No, what we're talking about is something different, something precise. Fearful respect, the kind that lasts longer than admiration, the kind that settles deep into the psyche and keeps people in check long after they've forgotten your kindness. This isn't about becoming a tyrant. It's about understanding human nature. Not the version sold in books and speeches, but the raw, primitive version we all carry deep inside. People respect what they're afraid to lose, and they despise what they perceive as harmless. If you become too safe, too easy, too forgiving, they'll walk all over you. Here's the brutal secret. If you want to lead, you must learn to manage fear, not with cruelty, but with clarity. Be firm, be fair, be measured, but never, ever be indulgent. Because the moment you allow others to feel like they can get away with crossing you, they will. Again and again. True authority isn't built overnight. It's built in the quiet moments. When you anticipate betrayal, prepare your response, and strike only when it truly matters. Because when the moment of truth arrives, when enemies gather, when knives come out, it's not love that keeps you safe. It's the respect you've carved into others through dignity, discipline, and decisiveness. And don't ever forget this. People forget your kindness quickly, but they never forget the boundary you set. They may smile in your face, praise your generosity, but the moment your guard drops, they'll test how far they can push. Unless they remember what happened the last time they did. Machiavelli wasn't praising cruelty. He was describing survival. Power isn't preserved through popularity. It's preserved through a delicate strategic use of respect and force. He knew that laws without force are just illusions, and force without laws is savagery. The real leader, he walks the tightrope between both, commanding with authority while remaining just and controlled. Now here's a perspective shift you need. Consistency in power is overrated. If you're always strict, they'll stop fearing it. If you're always soft, they'll stop listening. But if you act unexpectedly, sharply, but rarely, your presence becomes legendary. People don't fear noise. They fear silence that strikes with precision. Let's be honest. Who commands more respect? The one who lashes out at every mistake, or the one who's quiet until the exact moment when a single decision makes the room go silent? That's the art of leadership Machiavelli wrote about. Not shouting to be heard, but speaking so clearly, so rarely, that when you do, no one dares to ignore it. Trying to please everyone is the surest path to losing yourself. The more you seek their approval, the more they control you. And when you betray yourself for their applause, you lose the only thing that makes your leadership worth following. Those who shaped history, they didn't win hearts. They made hard calls. They didn't ask for applause. They commanded results. And even those who resented them could not deny one thing: their leadership was necessary. But now, let me take you somewhere uncomfortable, the place most avoid, the loneliness of power. The higher you rise, the fewer people truly understand you, the fewer you can trust. The stronger you become, the more others will watch with envy, not support. And that's the cruel paradox. Power brings respect, but it also brings solitude. You must learn to carry that weight, because only when you accept this loneliness will you be free to lead with clarity, unchained by emotion, untouched by the fear of being disliked. Power is a delicate weapon. And here's something most people never grasp. You should never share power with those who don't understand it. Why? Because ignorance breeds envy. And envy, like a slow-burning fuse, inevitably leads to betrayal. A wise leader knows this. They don't wait to be stabbed. They anticipate. They test loyalty not in easy times, but in storms. They observe who stays when there's nothing to gain and who drifts when the spotlight fades. Those are your true allies. Everyone else, keep them at arm's length. And here's the key. Never let anyone fully see your intentions. The leader who reveals too much becomes predictable, and predictability is weakness. Keep your strategies cloaked in shadow. Speak plainly, but never fully. Create a subtle fog of uncertainty around your next move, just enough to keep everyone guessing. Why does that matter? Because what people don't understand, they can't control. Mystery, when used with precision, is your most unshakable shield. Always leave a part of yourself unseen. Let no one map your mind completely. That uncertainty, that tension, keeps everyone cautious, alert, respectful, and you, protected. But now listen closely. Real power doesn't come from domination. It comes from the invisible, from understanding what moves others, what they fear, what they crave. If you can decode the silent drives behind people's actions, you'll hold a quiet control that brute force could never buy. Ask yourself, why do some people always get what they want? It's not charm. It's not charisma. It's because they've mastered one thing. They understand people's emotional engines better than those people understand themselves. While others seek attention or praise, the intelligent leader listens. He watches. He studies every glance, every hesitation, every contradiction, and then acts with surgical precision. Machiavelli wasn't promoting tyranny. He was illuminating truth. Human beings are rarely driven by pure goodness. More often than not, we act out of need, fear, desire. When you understand this, you shed illusions. You stop believing in the fantasy of fairness and start moving from a place of intelligent realism. So here's the question that splits amateurs from masters. Do you want to be seen as good or as strong? Society tells you to pick goodness. But what really happens when you show weakness? They exploit it. Every time. This is not theory. This is history. This is experience. Real strength, then, is not about being cruel. It's about being calculated. Kindness has power, but only when it's intentional, measured, and delivered like a well-placed move in a chess game. When you give too much freely, people stop appreciating it and start expecting it. What was once a gift becomes a demand. And here's where leaders fall, not because they're too harsh, but because they hesitate. They pause when they should act. They doubt when they should declare. Respect dies in hesitation, but when you act with calm certainty, even your enemies will recognize your power, and they'll tread carefully. Now lean in. This is the hardest truth of all. Even when power is sweet, it's never truly yours. It can vanish the moment you stop fighting for it. Power is a game you never stop playing. You can't relax. You can't grow soft. If you let your guard down, someone else, sharper, hungrier, will take your place. And yet, that's exactly what keeps you alive. That tension, that constant alertness. It's not a curse. It's the fuel. It's the whisper that reminds you to stay sharp. Because the moment you think you're safe, you've already begun to fall. But now let's dig even deeper. Power, in its purest form, is an illusion, a collective story you and others agree to believe. You hold power only because others believe you should. Laws and force, they're props. Useful, yes, but ultimately meaningless if the belief crumbles. So ask yourself this: what happens if people stop believing in your authority? What happens when the unspoken agreement that you're the one in charge dissolves? Exactly. Your power evaporates. That's why the greatest leaders aren't just warriors, they're illusionists. They maintain that invisible agreement, reinforce it daily, and never take it for granted. Contract it, control it, renew it when necessary, and sometimes challenge it, not to break it, but to remind everyone who holds the steering wheel. That's the delicate art of real leadership. It's the razor-sharp line between being a respected guide and becoming a delusional tyrant. Because here's what separates the two. The tyrant believes his power is absolute, permanent. But the very moment he believes that, he loses touch with reality. And what happens next? He implodes, not because others were stronger, but because he forgot the truth. Power is always fragile, always on the verge of slipping, always trembling at the edge of doubt. The true leader, the one who survives, embraces that fragility. That constant electric tension isn't a weakness. It's their greatest advantage. It sharpens every instinct, every decision, every word. That edge, it's what makes power exhilarating, dangerous, beautiful. So now, the question you must ask yourself, and this time, answer without lying. Do you really want power, or do you just crave the illusion of safety that it promises? Because if what you're seeking is peace, stillness, the absence of risk, you're in the wrong game. Authentic leadership is anything but safe. It is raw, restless. It lives in chaos. It walks through storms and still finds direction. That's the kind of leadership that moves history and terrifies the weak. It's not built for comfort, but for impact. Look around. The ones who endure, the ones whose names echo through time, are those who danced in uncertainty, who walked the edge and never flinched, because they understood this. When you carry real power, every step matters, every gesture echoes, and that's the beauty of it. The unbearable weight that becomes your armor. If comfort is what you want, leave now. But if what you seek is true influence, to leave an unforgettable mark on the world, then lean into the discomfort. Make it your weapon. Master it. Own it. Because here's the truth. True greatness only lives in the tension. That flicker in your chest right now, that's the flame of leadership. Small, perhaps, but alive. And it doesn't die. It waits. For the right moment. For the right decision. Now focus, because this is critical. Greatness doesn't mean always winning. It means knowing how to move with precision, even in defeat. It means losing without collapsing, failing without quitting, standing tall after being brought to your knees, again and again. Because those who master the art of rising, they're the ones no one can destroy. So thank you for walking with me through this brutal, brilliant map of leadership, psychology, power. If you've made it here, it's because something in you already knows. The world doesn't reward the loudest voice. It rewards the sharpest one. And now, you must choose. Will you be the leader who decides, or the follower who reacts? Will you be the strategist who anticipates, or the pawn in someone else's game? Will you be the architect of your fate, or the hostage of others' opinions? The power is already shifting. Can you feel it? And one last thing. Never explain more than necessary, because the leader who overjustifies isn't commanding. He's pleading. And pleading is weakness dressed in logic. Let your decisions speak so loudly that your silence is feared. Remember, your power should be seen, but never fully understood. Always leave something in shadow, a question unanswered, a motive unseen. The mind fills those blanks with awe, and awe creates power. People respect what they can't read, and they fear what they can't predict. And now, if you truly wish to master this game as Machiavelli saw it, engrave this into your mindset. Power is never given, it is taken. And once taken, it must be mastered, or it will master you. Doubt this if you dare. But deep down, you already know it's true. Those who can master respect, balance fear, and avoid hatred can dominate any environment. That's not a theory. It's a law of power. A silent rule followed by those who rise and ignored by those who fall. So here's the essence. Whoever controls the human mind controls reality, and the ones who truly grasp the psychology behind respect and fear. They're not just powerful, they're unforgettable. Now you stand at the crossroads, and you must ask yourself, what kind of leader do you truly want to become? Do you want to be loved, charming, admired, yet exposed and vulnerable? Or do you want to be feared, unshakable, respected, but maybe distant? Or, better yet, do you have the skill to wield both at once? A rare mastery, yes, but it exists. And yet beware, because the line between respect and hatred is razor thin. It's fragile, it's treacherous, and if you step without precision, it can all collapse. Walk carefully, and you'll be untouchable. But here's a subtle trap most never see. Can you distinguish true respect from silent fear? Because countless leaders have been destroyed by this confusion. Fear may bring obedience, but it fades. Respect lingers even when you're not in the room. If someone fears you, they comply out of survival instinct. But if they respect you, they act in your name, even in your absence. That's the mark of a leader who lasts. Now let's go deeper. A great leader, a real one, knows when to tighten the reins and when to loosen them just slightly. That sounds paradoxical, doesn't it? But it's the truth. Unyielding pressure eventually fails. People burn out. Rebellion brews. The system breaks. But if you let others breathe, make their own choices, stumble a little, they will eventually recognize the wisdom in your leadership. They'll learn through contrast. They'll see what happens without you. Let them fail, not to humiliate, but to teach. Because when they realize how far they fall without your guidance, they'll start to value your vision more than any speech could convince them. That's not cruelty. That's strategy. You're not punishing. You're educating. You're not dominating. You're conditioning them to feel your presence even in your absence. And when that happens, when they begin to ask themselves, what would he do in this moment? You've won. Not just their obedience. You've secured your legacy inside their minds. But now, let's uncover a deeper weapon, one you might have ignored. Silence. Yes, Machiavelli spoke volumes, but often his silence said even more. Strategic silence is perhaps your most underrated form of power. Do you understand why? Because silence triggers insecurity. It makes others squirm. They start to guess, to project, to wonder. Suddenly, you don't need to issue commands. Your lack of reaction becomes the most commanding thing in the room. A simple pause, a glance, no words, and just like that, the tension is yours to command. Everyone waits for your next move. Their anxiety builds in the space you left blank. But be warned, tension is a sharp instrument. It must be used with precision. Push it too far, and it snaps. Break that line, and fear turns into hate. Control turns into chaos.